All right, so basically, you also have a fuel filter, which is an oil water separator. You actually have a drain here too to drain any water out of the diesel.
Okay.
You spin this off like an oil filter, and you just have a replacement cartridge replaced.
And is that through you, or can I get that locally?
We can sell it to you. That might be harder to find locally. You may be able to. There are the part number and info on here.
Okay.
But if you don't get it, we can. That thing we do recommend, because that's not the engine. That's the burner system.
Yeah, you got to make sure it works. And how often does that need to be replaced? Hour-wise?
An average about every 100 hours on that, give or take.
Okay.
You know, you just think how many trips to Texas and back that is. Five trips, you know.
And that's something you can just UPS to me. Is it something small,
right? We can add an UPS. We can keep a credit card on file, and you can call in the order to the parts department. They can send you nozzles, couplings, O-rings, and valves and all.
Okay.
So basically, you got that. On the other side, the big black tank over there, the gasoline tank, which is kind of weird. I like them when they used to be red. This is meets all carbon emissions on these, so they went to black for some reason. Okay. Probably to deal with UV or whatever else might be there. I have no reason. I have no idea why they did it. So 18-gallon diesel, 18-gallon gas tank. They're marked here and here. You got to be careful. Don't put gas in the diesel and diesel in the gas tank. They will have adverse effect both ways in a big way. Other than that, we kind of covered the engine, the pump, and this side. I'll show you some of the safety valves on here, which are really the key things, which I would recommend you go to a service center anyway if you're not familiar with them. But what's really what's really nice here is the high pressure water from the pump goes through the bottom here and comes up through the bottom. Okay. From the pump here, goes into a unloader valve, which is we actually had to upgrade and convert. This has been something I've used for 30 years, or outstanding regulator for pressure. So water's coming up under pressure here. What happens when your pump is what they call a positive displacement pump. When the engine rotates, the pump rotates, and it's always pumping. Okay. It's not a variable flow or pressure. It's positive displacement. So what happens if I start the engine and run this, and I didn't have this valve, and I just shut the flow off, the pump would blow up like a grenade. Because of the pressure on there.
Well, so we don't need that.
We don't want that. That's why I don't use the cheap black spring and some other valves on this one here, because it's too much flow and pressure. You want to have the right one. Okay. This is rated like 4,300 PSI, 21 gallons a minute. So we got a larger, much larger valve. They hold up a lot longer, 3, 4, 5 times longer than normal ones. So what happens is when I shut the gun off under pressure, the spring gets overrid and it opens a port called a bypass, that cool bypass port. It's the same as fitting as this, but on the inside there. And there's a hose connected to the inside here. So when that bypass is open, there's no pressure on the pump anymore, or very little. All the water is now being pumped back to the water tank.
And this is all done automatic?
By this valve. You don't do anything.
It has to do with the different...
yeah, all the different on-off.
The bypasses and
anytime we shut anything off, they could deadhead the pump. This valve will sense it and allow that water to keep flowing, because it's got a positive displacement. It's constantly flowing. It's either going to come out of nozzle, gun, cleaning head, or it's going to dump back to the tank.
But this is the baby that I don't really need to...
You don't need this. Okay. But I was just bringing it up. The thing is, this is your pressure regulator. You have a few things. This is a pressure relief valve. So if this went bad or started to go bad or needed adjustment, this will pop off and release pressure. So this is protecting your pump and components in there from over pressurizing. Okay. Then you got the built-in bypass in the back. Now the other feature that are on here, this switch here is the pressure switch that operates the burner. I'll show you a steam explosion later if we have time. If something was allowed to superheat under pressure, say even though the pumps, you got trap pressure in the unit, and the heater kept running, that's another thing that can kind of get a little explosive. So it's nice to see what we have here is the most redundant safety devices to help prevent.
So it's kind of like a surge protector for your TV?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's yeah. So what happens if the burner, if the system, if there's no pressure, there's no heat. So this pressure switch, you need pressure to be able to kick the switch on that allow the heat to start.
Right, okay.
This valve here, safety valve, is a flow switch. It actually senses when water is running through the heating coil, from the pump to the heating coil. So if it doesn't sense there's any flow, it turns off the heater, okay? So right now we covered no pressure, no heat. No flow, no heat.
Okay.
We have the thermostat on the front we just showed you. Mm-hmm. If it's too hot, the thermostat acts as a high limit switch, preventing it from going too hot, okay?
Okay.
So that thermostat actually is wired over to here, right into this block assembly, and inside this block here, there's a probe that reads the temperature of the water.
Okay.
So it's how you, that's where it kicks, that's how it regulates. But it also can be a limit switch, meaning it's not going to let it go to 300 degrees. You know, it's normally will be set around 200 degrees.
We're on this.
There's the numbers for the thermostat.
We're doing, like when I'm doing a card, we're
180 to 200 is fine.
So just where it says
180, 190 is fine, because that'll clean, sanitize, and disinfect without chemicals that way. So right around 180 to 200 degrees.
So we're guessing the steam that stops right there. I really don't.
Right, it's not designed because you want high flow and high heat.
Okay.
Vapor doesn't do anything any good. I've sold almost $40 million worth of hot and cold water pressure washers. I've only sold a handful of steam cleaners.
Okay.
You know, steam doesn't really do what you think it does. It has some application, but in commercial cleaning, this kind of cleaning, it doesn't do anything.
So somewhere between 150 and 200, I'm good to go.
Yeah, and you could dial it in to make sure you're doing it. If you're at 180 instead of 200, you're going to be even more fuel efficient, and it's still going to be able to clean.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's not going to run as many hours,
Yeah,
so it's save money.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, the big thing on this probe here is to make sure it doesn't superheat the coil or exceed the temperature that it's set at. Mm-hmm. Number two, finally, this hose barb looking fitting here, the brass.
Yes.
That's actually a steam, what they call a steam diaphragm or steam burst relief valve. There's a disc in there that at 8,000 pounds of pressure, remember it's only a 3,500 pound pressure washer, but at 8,000 pounds of steam pressure, it'll pop off and steam will come out of here, saving the machine from blowing apart. Okay, so that's your last line of defense. Okay, it is designed to burst and come out. So say you're working, say you're doing a residential neighborhood, you're driving, you're a little low on water, you're heating it, all of a sudden it kind of sucks up some air because you kind of move back and forth. I got guys that'll do sidewalks, mile the sidewalk with a 4-foot surface cleaner. They're driving, they're cleaning, they're not paying attention. All of a sudden the water's getting kind of low in the tank, and they take off again, and they get this little, the water goes to the back of the tank, comes back in. Meanwhile, it got a little gulp of air in the system, but it wasn't enough to shut it down.
And when you're talking about water, we're talking about the
from the supply tank and the water tank in the back.
Okay, all right.
So one of the reasons you may get a little steam burst, it could pop this, just because you let it get too low or whatever, or it could be another little fluke. Mm-hmm. What happens is, this is something I would recommend you have handy. I think you have the kit that you can replace, you could take it somewhere. You just have to buy a socket that fits here, a deep socket that'll fit on here. You can take the other one, that's spare one, and say you replace that, we're on the phone, we're FaceTiming or WhatsApp, and you put a new one in, you got water back in the tank full, you go, okay Dan, I'm ready to start it again to see if it works. You fire it up and everything's good to go, and you're back working the rest of the day. You didn't have to take a break or to go stop for a service center. Mm-hmm. You're like, hey, thanks Dan, we're good, perfect. Fine. If like 10 minutes or an hour later that thing blows again, shut that machine down. Don't even think about restarting it. Take it into a service center, find out why you're hitting that kind of steam, why it's superheating. Doesn't happen much, but it can be a defective thermostat. It could be some other component. You don't mess with that.
Okay, so when you say take it to a service center,
Power washer
who
shop
exactly
probably.
services this?
Well, we'll go online and we'll find somebody.
Okay.
I mean, it could be a landed dealer, it could be a hockey dealer, it could be an Alcoda dealer, it could be.
But it's not,
Yeah, a power wash shop that's specialized.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so there is somewhere I can take it down there.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And we normally will get on the phone. Andre will call them, work with them, tell them, hey, check this, check that. You know, we've been around these I got 30 plus years. I think he's 20 years in the industry or better. I don't know.
Okay.
You know, we know these. I mean, half the time the reason I only sleep 3 to 4 hours is because I'm dreaming about these things all night long and figuring, you know, I can't get it out of my head. But in general, so basically, from start to finish, everything, even this valve here, what we did, we put like a JSC fitting, so if I need to pull this whole thing off right now, I can just take 2 little wrenches, unscrew this, spin the nut off, and I got the whole assembly in my hand. It's easy to service because it's a breakaway point. It's an easy way to detach it from the frame. Mm-hmm. So we made it very serviceable. These guys and the service guys, if they say, oh, I don't have time, and go, hey, just take 2 seconds,
a look at it.
Let me show you. And they're going to be, oh, wow, I like that. Yeah, we can change your pressure switch for you.
Okay.
Because it's
You made everything
accessible.
easy to access. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
easy to access.
It's the mechanic, not the engineer. Kick the engineer out, get the mechanic in, design it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they still come through, but bottom line.
Things where they make sense.
Right. Keep it simple and do what's right for the customer and everybody, and it's just amazing. The other thing is, so we pretty much covered the power washer. The only thing that just a note, which is not a big deal, just to show you, in order for us to get carbon emission, to get carbon emission on this with the gasoline nowadays, mm-hmm. you have to have a sealed cap and a carbon filter. These used to have to be like 8-gallon tanks because the requirements to get it up to 18. We have 2 cartridge filters just on the gas tank. Carbon filters, mm-hmm. not cartridge, but carbon. Mm-hmm. That was the only way to get it approved for carbon emissions with the oversized tank. So it is a perfectly carbon emission, even from Texas to California.
So this is what kind of like the smog check type.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and it's an issue, so you don't want to be caught without it.
And they have a way to test that other than
they could run and test.
Stick up your tailpipe or whatever, you know.
Yeah, they have a way, and I haven't got that deep into the actual mechanical part of it on the carb and how to check. We have never had to replace a carbon filter yet.
That sounds good to me.
So we're good, but it's nice to know that you're covered.
Sure,
you pull into a municipality and you got an EPA guy over your shoulder and like, oh wow, he even got the carbon filters. Oh, better to have them tap you on the back than kick you in the ass, you know?
Right, absolutely, I agree.
And the same thing with how our wastewater recycling and filtration system. I was down at the city of West Palm Beach, Florida, doing a demo. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it was a 4.5-hour demo. End of the day, this one guy comes up to me and goes, Dan, man, amazing machine, but I can't see approving this for the county. I go, why? He goes, well, you showed me out of the black tank. You know, I saw you drain that sludge and nasty stuff. This is that recycling tank over here with a cone-shaped bottom.
Okay.
The key is I want to show you that while I'm here. See this hose that comes up right there? The braided hose?
The braided hose, uh-huh.
Well, anything below that braided hose port is where the sand and debris and sludge will sit.
Okay.
As long as you keep that clean and drained, you won't get that sludge, but you'll still get dirty water in there and oil and grease.
Do you access from this side or that side?
From the back, from the other side.
Okay.
So basically, I had drained that one. It used to be off to the side, just a shorter hose, and I filled a bucket and we did some oil from where the garbage truck sat and a bunch of other nasty stuff, mm-hmm. and it was black. I mean, it looked like a tank full of oil. waste oil. And he goes, I go, yeah, wait. That's just the like 5th stage of the filtration. I go, we got 15 stages here. I go, really? He goes, show me what we got. And I actually got back to the the recovery tank, the wastewater tank, and I cracked open that valve, and no joke, crystal clear water came out. And he looked at me, and this was an EPA guy used to always harass. He literally put his arm around me and go, show me this all again. This is amazing. He goes, wow. He goes, you guys are going to be millionaires. This is insane because you're cleaning garbage cans and oil and grease from the parking area, from the concrete dumpsters, everything we did that day. And I go, he goes, I'm amazed. I go, hand down. And I go, wait, don't assume all of them have that. We're the only ones that really have taken it this far. So if you see one, you don't kind of see our sticker on there or anything, I would question it before you ever go forward. You go, oh, really? I go, yeah. And he goes, I didn't know that. And he goes, yeah. We got guys that are just nuts. I mean, they're filling the waste hopper with all the garbage and filth and not filtering anything really beyond that point. And they're dumping it in RV dumps and car washes, and you can't, you get away with it until somebody catches you. You know what I mean?
Where do you suggest dumping? Because I don't really have a plan for that yet, so I'm kind of concerned about the dumping of the water. I do have a clean out in front of my house, and I'm thinking, I'll just put it in my clean out.
Well, if you have a